And what's good with y'all, man? It's your boy Tick, aka Game Fanatics, the Michael Jordan the Game, and also the Rebel YouTube Underground. And I am back with another video, but this time we're going to do things differently. We're not going to do a commentary. This is going to be my top 5 video game scores or themes, whatever I decide to call it. So as you guys didn't notice about me, your boy Tick loves music. I mean, my first YouTube channel is actually about music. But I love music. You hear me singing in the streams all the time. And as a kid, when I used to play video games, there used to be certain games that had the best themes to me. Themes that I can remember to this day. So to give you a disclaimer, I am going to give my top 5, but I did not own a Super Nintendo. So you will not hear songs from Super Nintendo. And also, I am not going to, show any songs that are licensed. So that means things like GTA, you will not be listed, or Tony Hawk even. So anyway, without any further ado, here's my top 5 video game themes. Number 5. Let's start this countdown off with Road Rash 2. Road Rash 2 was a game that I played tons and tons with my friends and by myself. I mean, I put countless time in this game on the Sega Genesis back in the day as a youngin'. I mean, what could you hate about it? I mean, it was street racing with motorcycles. That's like the best thing in the world. Like, every kid wanted a motorcycle back in the day. Like, all the best cartoon characters and superheroes had motorcycles. It was the greatest thing ever. So what was good about the game was, one, you could kick, punch, hit people with billy clubs, or knock people off with chains, and knock your opponents out of the match. Also, on top of that, you had the cops chase you, and if you're right next to a cop, you did get busted. And along with that, they had very funny cutscenes that went along with the game, depending on the situation that happened during the match. So if you got arrested, you may get a different cutscene, and also depending on what map you were racing on too. So the game was great. Like, I loved this game as a kid, used to play it all the time. But the one thing I remember the most about this game was the music. I mean, the music on this was probably the best music that was ever done on the Sega Genesis. By far. I mean, they did such a good job with the Sega Genesis music chip. I don't even know how they even did it. But it was full of great guitar riffs, and it was essential to the game's atmosphere. But the music I remember the most was from the Hawaii stage. That stage, I used to hum that song all the time. First of all, it was my favorite stage on the game. Second of all, it just had some hype music. So the music consisted mostly of, hardcore rock and roll and things of that nature, which fits motorcycle racing. And it was just well done. I actually found a remix of the song, the Hawaii song, that some YouTuber dropped, and it just sounds amazing. Now, I will play that in the video. It sounds good. I just want to give kudos to that guy for making a remix of that song, because I didn't think it could get any better. So yeah, this was definitely one of my favorite games during my childhood. I mean, me and my homeboys, like I said, we used to go in on this game to see who could knock each other off the bike and win the races. Well, actually, it was more like who could crash the furthest and run into the most things while doing it. Yeah, the music was also good to crash to. Number 4. So the fourth game on my list is Buster Groove 2. Now, Buster Groove is a PlayStation 1 game that may have flown under your radar back in the day. But luckily for me, my buddy bought a PlayStation magazine and it had a demo with Buster Groove 2 on it. And I remember putting that thing on, and me and my homeboys played this game non-stop. I mean, before we had class in the morning in freshman year in high school, we would just sit at my buddy's house and play this before it was time to go. And we had so much fun. I mean, first of all, what made this game great was it was a rhythm-based game, but it was different from Dance Dance Revolution and Parappa the Rapper, because when you put in the button commands, your character would actually dance. Well, I guess your character would rap in Parappa the Rapper, but you know what I'm talking about. And we just loved that. And it was a variety of different characters, and each character had their own style of dance. But the character that I remember the most, and it was just because of his theme, was the character Heat. Heat was a Japanese b-boy, so of course his style was breakdancing. But not only was he a great dancer, but his theme was just unforgettable. It reminded me of a 1990s house theme, kind of like Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. But it fit his atmosphere and his style of dancing. So here's a clip. beautiful. Just beautiful. How could you not like that? That got me pumped. I was over here hitting the running man listening to that. But like I said, he definitely had the best theme in this game. But the funny thing is, he wasn't even my favorite character. I didn't even use Heat. That was my homeboy's character. You know, my favorite character was actually Shorty. There's something about them pigtails, yo.
Number 3.
Does this guy really need an introduction? Nope, but I'm going to do it anyway. Our number 3 song on the list is from Sonic the Hedgehog series. Before becoming corny, wearing green contacts, and chasing white women.
Oh yeah, bestiality, yeah, I love it.
Sonic was Sega's answer to Nintendo's Mario in the 90s. But what did he bring new to the table? I mean, he could jump and roll, but his main attribute was his mind-blowing speed using the Genesis Blast processing chip. I just remember being dazzled by this game when I saw my cousins playing at their home. I knew then that my Nintendo was old hardware and it was time to step into the 90s for real. But not only did the game pack amazing visuals and gameplay at the time, but it also was supported by an amazing soundtrack that would stay burning our brains for years. One of the first songs that stood out to me was the theme from Spring Yard Zone on the original Sonic game. It bared an uncanny similarity to Bobby Brown's track Every Little Step from the late 80s. While my number 3 pick from Sonic 3's Carnival Zone was said to have similarities to a track named Jam, performed by pop icon initial MJ, who was also said to have secretly worked on the game's soundtrack. What made this song stand out for me and what made it my number 3 pick is this mixture of hip hop and funk in the melody. I've always enjoyed hip hop, so I couldn't help but tap my feet to the beat while speeding through the stage, destroying Eggman's robots in my way. As for the MJ conspiracy, I'll post a link in the description if you're interested in learning more about the rumor. Ooh, spooky number 2.
When you think of a badass game, you think about Metal Gear. When you think about a badass character, you think about Snake. So when you have a badass game and a badass character, you gotta have a badass theme.
That brings me to my number 2 video game theme. Konami took a badass game and a badass character and made a motherfucking badass theme. When I first heard this theme, I almost cried, got goosebumps, and a hard on at the same time. Yeah. Anyway, this song was obviously influenced by classic Bond movie themes, that or a 1970s porno, but it will still stick with me as one of the most badass video game themes of all time.
Fear in my heart, but you're so supreme.
Before we get to the number 1 theme, let's listen to some honorable mentions. Games with great themes but didn't quite make our list. Number 1.
The number 1 theme on my list is from none other than a game from the Sega Genesis named Eternal Champions. Eternal Champions was an amazing fighter in the 1990s that was probably slept on and overshadowed by games like Street Fighter II and Mortal Kombat. I'm happy that I was one of the few who actually decided to give the game a try. It was filled with amazing characters such as Trident, Shadow, Blade, Larson, and Midnight, to name a few. The game even had hidden stage fatalities. It was a very solid fighting game, but where it shined the most was its impressive soundtrack. Each character's themes fits their stage and their personality. Characters like Shadow Yamato has a gentleman's club or nightlife kind of theme, while Xavier Pentagram, the sorcerer, has a darker, sinister tone theme. These guys obviously knew what they were doing. But there were 2 themes I remember constantly playing in the sound test option that I thought sounded amazing. It was the character's bio theme and the bad ending theme. I always would say that I thought they could make great rap beats. Apparently I wasn't the only one. To give you a bit of a backstory, when I was 9 years old, my childhood buddy called me to tell me he just got the new Bone Thugs album, since he and I were both fans. He said that it had a different version of Crossroads that wasn't on the radio, and played it for me on the phone. I said that beat almost sounds like the song on my Eternal Champions game. Little did I know, I was actually on to something. So 10 years later, I thought about the combo me and my buddy had, and I decided to search for the tracks on one of the many free download programs we had at the time. So I looked up the album for the songs, and the first song I downloaded was called Eternal, from the East 1999 album. Then I decided to look up Crossroads, and this was my findings.
Where you from, nigga? Straight from the motherfucking land of the hogs. 5 true thugs from the double. Glock and you fall. Ready to pop to the dawn. Eternally a song. Yeah. Nigga return from the club. Just hustler, better than I did. We talking about it, distributing, yeah, yo. Little lazy beat it, daily collecting and paper, rolling with truth. Nothing to lose. Nevertheless, hate about that talking, screaming out murder, coming to serve you. Nigga, we told it, won't be stalking.
Even though you're gone, you still got love. My nigga, just rest your soul. Even though you're gone, you still got love. My nigga, just rest your soul. Nigga, while he get pep, put in the coffin. No, I'm a nigga, take a phone. I'm a nigga, try to swing them doors when the whistle will lost it. For this, pick up your fears and handle that shit like men. Cause too many pogs out there pumping, thinking your gal is your friend.
So it's clear to say that the producer borrowed a few ideas from Eternal Champions. I guess it went with the album's Eternal idea. I later did some research to see if they mentioned the samples from the game in the album manual, and to my surprise, there were no mentions of Eternal Champions at all. But as you can see, I wasn't the only person who liked those 2 songs. Well, this concludes my top 5 favorite video game themes. Remember, my opinion may be different from yours, so let me know if you agree with my list, and which songs would you have added to yours. And this is your boy Game Fanatic, and I'm gone. Bye!